You know I'm a hustler, hustler. You know I'm a hustler, hustler.
Welcome to Get Biz, Do Biz, Get Pay. I am your host, Luan the Don. In this show, we're going to interview successful business owners in construction and construction coaches. We're going to find out what it really takes to win in the construction industry. What it really takes to make a lot of money, have a great life, and be able to do the thing that you wanted to do. Enjoy. Hey, it's your boy Luan back again with another episode of Get Biz, Do Biz, Get Pay. Today I brought in an expert in, I would say, getting business and keeping the business. I would address him as a communication expert, a tech integration expert, a data aggregator, a CRM wizard, and sometime a fractional CTO. Is that kind of encompassing what you do, Cal?
I would definitely say a lot of that is very accurate for sure.
So welcome to the show, Cal Reed.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Appreciate you having me on today for sure.
So let's I think we spoke offline a little bit, and you weren't always in the tech space. Like how did that come about, your journey?
Yeah, man, absolutely. I think it would be, wise to do a quick deep dive or a quick dive into like where I come from and obviously leading up to this to answer that question. So I grew up on a farm actually in the middle of nowhere, Southeast Colorado. And that kind of world is my background, getting out in the outside, being outside, working, hands-on kind of work and all that. And then I went to college in Golden, Colorado at a place called Colorado School of Mines for an engineering degree. And my focus in engineering was steel related, which actually carried me from Colorado down to Arkansas, which is where I live now. This May of 2024 will mark 10 years that I've lived here in Arkansas full time. And so I moved down here right out of college at the age of 22 and started working for a large steel company, actually the biggest in the country, probably one of the biggest in the world at this point. And that company was Nucor. I worked there starting as a what's called a metallurgical engineer, and then made my way into some leadership management type of positions. And then in the last couple of years that I was there, they actually asked me to take on a different kind of a role that was really, I call it not one that had existed before in the capacity that I took it on. It was a conglomeration of a handful of different roles. One of the parts of the role was a lot of, logistical scheduling based type of fulfillment. So essentially taking what the upstream and the downstream needs of that facility was and making them work together, but also getting the people that were in those several, like in the different parts of that mill to really work together also. That was part of it. The other part of my responsibility was actually helping restructure the operating system that ran that mill and essentially taking something that had been in existence really since the beginning of that mill's time, back in the late 80s, early 90s, that had been morphed upon and morphed upon and morphed upon, and then grow it into something that, I guess, completely bring it, into something new. And that involved a lot of collaboration with upstream and downstream people in all the departments. It involved a lot of collaboration with other mills. It involved a lot of collaboration with software engineers, developers, that kind of thing. That was a several-year project from my start of my involvement to when I actually left the company. And so in September of 2020, the height of COVID, if you will, I had actually walked away from that company. And so it was a very amicable split at that point in time too. Like a lot of people were shocked that I was walking away, but it was all, in all reality, I wanted to go see if I could challenge myself to do even bigger things more closely on my own. Also, Chelsea and I, that's my wife, we wanted to move to a place that was a little bit more populated. So we moved down here to Little Rock, and which is where we're at now in the Little Rock area. I worked as a very short amount of time for a project manager for a commercial HVAC and plumbing company that also did general general contracting work. You're very familiar with that role. I would say a lot of people that's listening to this are also very familiar with like GC type of work. This is where I actually recognize that there's a lot of folks that didn't really have a good knack for just software and technology that can really help businesses. Because when I got there, I was like, hey guys, how are you managing what you're supposed to be doing? How are you managing your jobs and all this kind of stuff? And they just showed me a stack of papers, and I'm over here, I'm like, wow, that's antiquated, right? It's old. It's while it's effective, is it the most effective? Probably not. And so I actually didn't work there for too long. I was there for about 10 months. Combination of I was starting to get some traction in my little side hustle, which was more marketing focused at the time than it was more systems, which is what it is now. But from there, there was also some cultural differences that I didn't really align with. And so just shy of a year of working there, I actually walked away and then went all in on my own. So essentially walked away from corporate as a whole, July of 2021. And I've been doing my own thing since. What I've been doing now has kind of morphed, from the beginning. Like I said, it was kind of a marketing side hustle to essentially I've got a full-blown SaaS company. And so a CRM automation technology type of company now. But I would say, to answer your question from in a 30-second quick answer, taking Nucor's experience that I got with restructuring and really redefining that operating system, and then going into a business where there was no tech or no, really implementation of anything that could help us kind of stay more organized, showed me that, for one, I can do it at a smaller level, and two, there are a lot of people who need it. So that's really, where that experience comes from. And then I got into the automation space. My brain just seems to, work really, really well in that whole space. And so I just took it, ran with it, learned a lot, took a lot of courses, and really taught myself a ton, learned from a lot of people, and went from there.
Wow, man. You have quite I would say quite an experience, like a lot of wisdom there. So from what I heard is you were kind of the glue man back in the corporate. You were, was I call it oil, right? Oil, glue, make everything stick together, make everything kind of run. Kind of like behind the scene, quarterbacking this system, that system, make them communicate to each other, to where, the user, which is employees and client, have an easy user interface where they can just, open an app or whatever it is that you guys do, with just, remove all the technical aspect of it, and make it easy for the user to use. Is that seem accurate, or am I a
Yeah.
little off right there?
Yeah, I would say that that's definitely accurate. In the realm of what I do now, the whole goal is to allow or build a solution or provide a solution that business owners and the teams within the businesses can use a platform and a product that helps them, stay connected with their actual business, like, or their prospects, their clients, and that kind of thing. And then also to where everything is just like centralized, right? We don't have to be going after, a whole ton of different logins. We don't have to be managing a whole ship pot full of different, tools and all that kind of stuff. We're really just in a centralized location for all of our communication, all of our lead management, all of our job management, and everything like that.
Well, you mentioned something very interesting to me, that centralized and keeping in communication with clients. As you know, in our industry, leads are the most important things. I would say in the highest important orders, uh, probably higher than actually getting the job done, is, keeping the lead informed, having some type of value built into those leads. Just make sure they don't fall to the crack per se. Um, and then I think you've done a pretty nice job at that to where it kind of removed the human errors on us not contacting the lead that needed our help right away. So talk to me how did you come about, developing those systems that basically increase everything that the business trying to do, right? If you can set more appointment, if you can, keep more lead engaged and reactivate more lead, all that's going to turn into more appointment and more sales and, more profit. So I think, we should talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I think a lot of it really comes down to listening to what the clients need more than it is just trying to install something that I think a person would need. Right. So, like first time I talked with you, I was like, hey, what does your ideal customer journey look like? And you were like, hey, man, keep this thing nice and simple for me. Whereas, there are others in the space, like say, for example, Nate, he wanted a little bit more depth into like the stages of his customer journey to be able to track. And so like each one of them is more fine-tuned than really fine-tuned for that particular business and that particular person, rather than just like a consistent, cookie cutter type of model. But so yeah, definitely listening to, your question is really, how did I get this framework, or how did I build this framework? Some of it, it does come from listening to the clients and asking them what it is the clients actually need, right? Do they need a pipeline that has all these different stages? And then inside of these stages of that customer journey, what do we need to happen? Do you want to be talking to these people fairly aggressively? Or do you want to talk to them not too aggressively? And then the other thing is, I've listened to people say like Clifton, and Brian Diamond is another one who's definitely shared a lot of logic with me in this too. But like Clifton, Brian, a whole bunch of other folks that have already been in the industry, and they've really helped either themselves in their own businesses or others fine tune their follow-up or their communication processes. So I listened, and I listened and I listened, and then over time, a conglomeration of all these thoughts that I have heard from them, plus what the clients actually have told me they needed, really kind of turned into a consistent, repeatable framework that is now actually what I install in every single system. Now, that to be said, obviously there's nuanced differences between each one of them, right? Like I use the use case of you and Nate. Same type of business model in the decking space, but two different types of systems because of the level of like complexity or simpleness, if you will, that both of you guys wanted independently. And so the function of them still is the same. It really is just like how the view of them will change. And so I guess just a summary of that is definitely taking a listen to a lot of different people. Reading books, that's another one, reading books and or listening to different sales experts in the industry, focused on the blue collar industry, and then listening to what the clients need, and then putting it all together and creating something that works, testing it, and then auditing those test results, and then fine tuning from there. Because at this point, several years of doing this and all the data that I have has given me an indication like what works, what doesn't work, and that kind of thing.
Oh, that's amazing, man. As you know, I'm far more of a fan of a simple system first.
Mm-hmm.
And as we master that system, we can start bolting on to other system, because the worst thing that can happen is we have a system, but nobody using it.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody is utilizing it. So, the less that people have to think is the better for me.
Yep.
Click a couple button, and then you're on to the next stage. Oh, that's my vibe. It's not everybody vibe. Everybody want a little bit more control of every stage of the project. But that's leads is so important. I think you hit the nail right on the head right there, where it's you listen to guys that been in the industry for quarter century, pretty much. And they have things that they know that is working, like follow up always work, you know, uh, reactivation always work. And there's this little thing that maybe, as a young business owner or a small size construction business, we don't think about. We don't really put that much thought into it. And to me, that's an area where we can make a lot of impact in educating people of what's important, like the important speed to lead, the important of manning the lead, the important of turning over every lead, the important re-follow up on your past client, the important to follow up on your open lead, the importance of getting reviews, the importance of all that kind of stuff is might seem redundant, but overall I think it can add 20 to 30% revenue in any business.
I mean, it's been shown to do it, right? You've got the numbers that show it, and there are plenty of others that do as well. Just if you look at the follow-up and just the amount of leads, that come through, and then, right, let's say you install a system today and it's doing the things that it needs to do at the level that it needs to do, right? Keeping up with the people, it's giving you a level of clarity of where all of your leads are, where all of your people are in each of the stages in that customer journey. And then also it's touching on them, right? Like that's the other thing. We've got, like within your case and a lot of others that I work with, you've got an abundance of lead flow, which is a beautiful thing. And that being said, the thing is you can't touch on all those people, right? Like you could, but you're probably going to lose track of something else elsewhere. And so if you've got a system that's staying on top of them kind of thing, and then when they are ready to talk, all they got to do is reach back out. They either schedule or they call in, they text in, and then boom, your lead handler is able to take care of that. It's literally shown itself time and time again that, hey, there is an increase in revenue that comes from something like this.
Yeah, so that's man, everybody listening to this podcast should take a look at their lead intake process, right? Just to expand that conversation a little bit. What's the time between the lead hit your pipeline in the first communication? How soon are you setting these lead? Are you setting all of them? What's the percentage of the success rate? What's the percentage of the close rate? Like all of this stuff is giving clarity to, do I need to invest more in marketing, or am I good enough? Can I pick and choose who I go to see? And I mean, otherwise, I think you're just swinging in the dark, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely accurate. Definitely accurate.
So if somebody want to get in, like, hey, Kyle, build me a system. Which would you prefer? Like, uh, Bill, this is what I know works, so this is what you're gonna get. Or are you prefer like, what you want, what you want, what you need? Because I think there's pro and cons of both approach, right?
Yep.
So talk to me a little bit about like how would you want your new client to behave, and when getting a new custom solution from you?
Yeah, man. Great question. I think, to answer that question, it is important to obviously understand that there are two different kinds of, say, businesses. There's the ones that, they've been around different technology, and then there's ones that have either tried to implement it or they just haven't gotten technology implemented just yet. And where, I'm not going to call them behind the eight ball, because there's a lot of people that are still just kind of learning that there's a lot of tech that's available to us rather than just some basic stuff. And so, you got the folks that have been using something, but they want to take it to the next level. They know that they want a more custom solution. They've got the capital to be able to invest in something like that. And then you've got the folks who are, they don't really know what they need. They don't really know what they can afford. They don't know much of anything. They just need something. Like, that's a whole different realm of folks. And the beautiful thing is, we can support both of those different kinds of folks with either something that's a more simple, robust solution that gets your foot in the door, like I was telling you earlier, offline, kind of the vehicle model, right? Like, you've got a system that's kind of like an F-150. Just, it gets in there, it works, right? It carries you from point A to point B, it hauls a little bit and go from there. Whereas, a more custom solution, especially in your guys' world in the blue collar industry, most folks are going to know like the F450, that's the platinum or the limited, and it's like super fancy. It's got the big lift kit and all the things. Like, that could be the relation between a more simple versus a more custom solution. Now, when it comes to those custom solutions, it's that in order for those to really work, it's a two-way street. It is definitely not a one-way street where, the installer like myself is trying to present all the best solutions and not take into account what the business needs, right? Like, I don't know everything about how your business runs. I know a lot how automation can help your business run even better. So it's a two-way street in the sense that during these development phases, we've got to have communication, on a regular basis, like at least every week kind of thing. Because these implementations, they're not short. They are a little bit lengthy of a process in order to get really, really well dialed in. But then from there, I'm asking questions, understanding what it is. Where are your pain points in your business model? Where are your pain points in your customer journey? Where do you feel like you're dropping the ball? What reports don't you have that you need, that maybe your coaches are asking for and everything like that? Like, do you know these numbers? Every time they ask you, how many leads and how many appointments and how many deals did you close last month? And you're like, I don't really know, right? Like, that's a problem. And so, then let's get that sorted out. So the kind of, when you ask the question of like what the kind of person and or even what kind of involvement on more the custom approach, it is definitely a lot of involvement and a two-way street, because I want the system to be something that works, not something that is just, coming out of my brain and it's like, oh, I think this will be the solution that you need. But in all reality, it might miss the mark on a handful of very critical things, because I thought your business was a 2-call close method, as an example. Whereas like you do a 1-call close method. You're very quickly, getting into that space. And there are a handful of others that have really adopted that model. If I didn't sit down and ask you that question and really dig into like how your quoting to closing process goes, if I didn't know that, I could very well put a whole series of like follow-up, long-term follow-up after the proposal or the quote has been sent, and that not even be a thing that you need. And so, to summarize it, it's definitely a two-way street where I do a lot of listening, and then you tell me the solutions that you're like, hey, I got a problem here. I need a solution there, and blah, 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 blah. And then I flowchart it, map it out, give it a blueprint, and then go build it.
Well, that's amazing, man. You know, I I am more of this stuff is I don't understand any of it, and for to have people like you and some other in the space that can come in and do some or something, I have something that works and to your point, to the way I want it to work, right? And I am, a little bit far more aggressive on the lead acquisition side than most. And then, the follow-up cadence kind of follow that, and and to your point, and this is where I'm trying to get at. There's some business owner that to need to adopt the urgency in setting, lead handling. And the point I'm trying to get at is there are folks, and I've talked to a few of them, and I'm not trying to call anybody out, but they say that's too many communication go out to the lead. I can't handle it.
Yep.
You know, so that's where where I'm trying to get at is I think anybody that reach out to you or any automation expert, they should buy into the lead handling cycle of things, because like that alone will force them to have a better process in the back end of how they handle their lead, how they handle client experience, how and to me that's you know I have there's two things that will improve any business is speed to lead, speed to appointment.
Mm-hmm.
Just man the phone and man the lead.
Yep.
Two such simple things, but I get so much pushback from people for talking about it. You know, like, well, if you fight me, then I know there's some hole in your system that you need to fix. Because if you can do those two things, man, like without even changing your business, I think it's gonna explode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. The other, speed to lead, yes. Speed to appointment, yes. But just knowing like the data and knowing the numbers that are coming in, that's another thing. For the longest time, I didn't even know how many people I'm talking to, right? And now I can go straight into my pipeline and I can tell you this is how many people I have appointments for that, booked an appointment in the last month. This is how many people I have, a proposal out for, kind of thing, or just different things like that. So yes, I agree with you 100%. And also we are in a world where, and we got to all realize this, everybody's getting inundated with, different kinds of communications, different kinds of, distractions, advertisements. And so we might feel as if we put a system in place and we text this person and like in 1 minute after that lead comes in, we call them, that 1 minute as well, and then they don't pick up, and then our system sends them another text message, say 20 minutes later, with an email between the two, we might feel that that's way too aggressive. But in all reality, that person very well might have gone through and done a whole lot of other things in that 20-minute time frame and completely forgot about you. And so, there are the extremely hot buyers, of course. Those are the ones that are going to pick up the phone. There are the ones that are just like rabbits and they're running around, they're doing different things. They're like, oh, I see something. Let me do this. That's something I definitely could be interested in. And then they move on to the next thing. And so we might feel as if we're bugging them too much. But in all reality, I have, in all the systems I've put together and all the deployments that have gone out, and I hear some people, they're like, holy moly, this is way too much communication. I have yet to have somebody come back and actually tell me that their clients or their leads said they were talking too much to the people. And, there's distractions in the world. Let's make sure we're staying on top of them for sure.
So this is a key point because like business owner, they make decision based on their feelings and their what they know a lot. And hearing from you, which had a bunch of data that can back this up, and I can back this up as well. The amount of deals that you can close by being top of mind, being accessible, being just out there will far outweigh the one or the two or the three people that tell you to this text back stop, or this text back don't text me again. Those are very far and few in between. And if they're like that, they're probably not your client anyway, so you shouldn't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
But overall, is I have so many people thank me for not giving up on them, because we got to realize, at least in my space of construction, people reach out to us.
Mm-hmm.
People raise their hand. It's not like, we force them to buy our product. They raise their hand. They say, hey, I'm struggling over here. Help me out. And if you don't help them out, that's a shame on you,
Mm-hmm.
because there's 30 other deck builder they could have reached out to. There's 30 maybe siding company, 30 other roofer, 30 other, general contracting company that they could have reached out to, but they chose you. And for us to not have a system that can touch them right away, it doesn't even have to be anything crazy, touch them the right way and let them know that somebody out there is thinking of them. Then I mean, I think we missed the boat on making a great first impression.
100%. I agree with that, man. Yeah. I mean, even, you know, people want to be talked to. It's really what it comes down to. And people want that consistent communication. Okay, cool. If there's let's say you get 30 leads this week or today, depending on how many leads you got, and 3 of them are pissed that you texted them. Okay, sweet. I don't have to deal with 3 assholes at this point. Like, that just gave me another qualification or a disqualification on the whole process. And so, it goes further than just trying to keep on top of people. It also weeds the folks out that you really don't want.
Right. That's so I mean, I feel like we hitting a broken record, but it needs to be beaten down to a science. Like because if you think about it, leads is the business.
Mm-hmm.
Leads are the business. I mean, your vendor ain't gonna pay you. You
Yeah.
know, your vendor ain't gonna pay you. Your marketing company ain't gonna pay you. You know who's paying you? Who make everything's possible? The leads. Yeah, but I don't know if they're qualified or not. I'm like, well, but they reach out and you have the solution that they want. So to me, that's I know we go kind of a little bit off track here, but that communication is the key into getting these people signed up, because we haven't even gotten into sales yet. This is just the beginning. This is just the first interaction to our brand. Maybe it's the first, maybe it's a 7, depending on how your marketing works. But let's take a detour on here and talk a little bit about, like, what what do you do for fun, man? Like, you a tech guy, so I I can't imagine you doing anything techy outside of work.
Yeah, man. Completely. You're absolutely right. So, take it back to, like I told you, I grew up on a farm. I'm an outdoors guy. I love being outside. A lot of things that I enjoy being outside are in the summertime on the lake, so wake surfing, wakeboarding, just hanging out on a boat, that kind of thing. And then in the wintertime, snowboarding. So, even though I live in Arkansas, I do travel back and forth to Colorado quite a bit, but that being home. And so we'll go out there, hang out. We've got a family cabin there in the mountains. And so we'll go there. Sometimes I might be there for a week. Sometimes I might be longer. Sometimes we'll go, several different trips, that kind of thing. And so those are the 2 primary things. But then also on the other side of it, my wife travels full time for her work. And so I go with her, usually try to get wherever she's at, like one week of the month typically. And so, with that, I I would say definitely a thing I enjoy outside is just being able to travel and see the things that she's able to see. Like one of the, we were up in Maine a few weeks ago. It was still a really neat experience to get up there and see some of the things there. And then like in, let's see here, in early to mid November, we were out in Nevada and Utah for 2 weeks and did a big road trip for her work. And the beautiful thing is that I'm able to travel with her and I'm able to work wherever I want to go or wherever I do go. But then at the same time too, like I'm able to, go and explore, go and see different things. And so I would say definitely traveling is one. So outside of that, I enjoy working as much, I enjoy working. I enjoy sitting, thinking about different processes, how I'm going to make this work and how this is going to come together. And, also helping build up like a team, if you will. That's another thing. Like I just brought on a full-time project manager and today was his first day actually. And that being said, helping him learn like the ropes, learn the things. He's a younger guy. And I want to say kid, but he's not a kid. And so helping him as well understand like different things. So yeah, man, that's what I really like to do outside of work is just be outside, really.
Be outside and do more work.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in all reality, I don't mind even getting out there and doing like hands, like manual labor. Like a few weeks ago, early January, I guess it was, I helped my father-in-law rip out some cabinets out of a lake house. Then we took those cabinets up to a deer cabin in the woods, in southeast Missouri, if you will, and took that stuff up there. And while that's manual labor, it's still like for me, that's kind of a way to step away from my day to day. Because like when I'm at the computer and I'm really thinking about stuff, I'm not necessarily using like a lot of physical energy, but very much mental energy. And so there's definitely times when, just getting out there like that day, I was using probably sawzalls and different kind of tools, which I mean, I may sound like I'm inexperienced in all that. I know a lot of that kind of stuff anyways. And so, getting out there, swinging some hammers, breaking some stuff, putting things together and then loading it onto the trailers and then going up into the woods and then putting it into the new cabin that we're building up in the woods. That to me, even though it is manual labor and it is work, it's a way for me to step away from the day to day and actually just kind of take my mind off of things.
Well, as I started this business, I also left the corporate world right at the same time that you did. I think 2020 was it? Uh, so I like to travel. I just don't have enough time to travel, I guess. But but I think with this new team that I'm bringing on, hopefully after this year, I'll be more of a absent owner. Not in the sense that I'm not going to be there to fix problem or anything like that, but it just allows me a little bit more time to do stuff like this, talk to people, and get to know you a little bit more on a personal level. And that's what I like to do is connecting with people and talk and travel. Um, but besides traveling, working with your hands, you say yeah, your wife is a traveling nurse. Is that
Yeah, nurse practitioner for the VA system. Yep.
yeah? So my wife's a nurse too. So that's well, she's not anymore. She works with us now. But eventually, I like the idea of building the business that serve you instead of you serving the business. So I think, people in our circle always talk about, if you have to work, in your business, you don't really have a business. And I think there's some truth to that. And what do you think, man? What do you think? Do you feel like there could come a time where Kyle is not doing any integration anymore? Kyle is not doing any of the day-to-day stuff anymore. Kyle is not doing project managing, but actually just maybe having a podcast and talk about automation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. In all reality, I do say that obviously is the goal. And I think a lot of folks might sit here and say that's the goal. And then in all reality, they are afraid to let go and let somebody else take the ropes. But for me, coming out of corporate and in a leadership type of a position, I was blessed at a young age to be able to see that and actually put that into use. Like there were things I had no idea how to do a lot of stuff in that mill. Had no idea. But I was able to put the people together and or lead the people who were already put together and give them, new sets of guidance, new, just different things to think about and do. So I've carried that, and it took me a while in the first, in the first iteration of business. And then recently, since I've kind of done a whole rebranding and restructuring of the way that I'm doing things in business, it took me 6 weeks to make my first hire this time around. And then, he started off technically as a kind of like part-time. We were kind of getting the feel for each other. So, I was like, hey man, let's see if we were going to work together. If you like what we're doing, if I like the way that you're working and everything. And so I brought him on today. So technically speaking, it was almost really about 7 weeks to the day that I brought on a full-time person. That is an improvement over the previous time by about 6 months. And so, the previous time it was like, hey, I'm going to try to do all this. I'm going to try to do all this. And I recognize that doesn't work. Now, with that being said, the the ultimate goal, obviously, for me is to go and take this to where, yes, there are people in place who can help fulfill. And then I'm essentially working on the business as they, as the cliche would go. That is, the intention behind it. But there's a couple of things that are deeper than that as well. Like I actually, I want to be able to go and acquire companies that are in the space that I actually serve as current clients of mine as well, because I recognize that a lot of these businesses, they struggle and they're not entirely certain as to what to implement and that kind of thing. And so my intention is to get the tech company stable at a spot where it's very much able to fulfill without the needs of Kyle 100% present, and then be able to go find these companies that need this company, the Stannect company, and then basically acquire those companies in some fashion, and then bring them in and change the people's lives that work inside of that business, right? I've had that capacity to do it with tech, and I also have a leadership skill or capability as well, in my opinion. And so I'm like, why not put that to test and actually make it work? So definitely, in all reality, definitely plan on stepping up off of like out of the end of the day to day and really getting out, meeting people, going to conferences, going to like when I see you guys, you and Nate and different guys going to these different events, I'm like, I need to be there with a booth, right? Like that's the kind of stuff, even if it's not just to sell, but if it's to share, like, hey guys, you need to be thinking about this. When you leave here, don't forget about the fact that you need to go home and you need to have a process in place that helps you call your leads within 2 to 3 minutes of them coming in as a lead, right? Like not only just being like, hey, give me all the money, but here's some education as well, kind of thing. So yeah.
Man, that's that's a goal, man. Like it's I see that this is a great industry to be in, especially for a tech person, because everything hasn't been tainted by private equity yet. Everything hasn't been and everything's kind of behind, kind of old school pen and paper mentality, relationship, building versus data, versus data science, right? But I think there's a point where we can marry the two together, right? Relationship and data. People say you can't do it, but I've been able to not weaponize, leveraging relationship and create I wouldn't say a strong business, but a business that had steady flow of
Mhm.
lead coming in, right? And that's all we want first, and then we can start putting people into place because now we have the lead that's to support these people.
Yep.
Uh, and running back to speed to lead and things like that. What are three actionable things that you can give business owner that doesn't have any automation in their pipeline or in their business? What are three of the actionable things that you can give them to do right now to increase close rate, bring more revenue, shit more net profit? And it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It's something that can be implemented like right away.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I would say one of the first ones that I would consider is whatever lead source is the primary lead source, to make sure that when that lead source captures a lead, that the right people on the team who are responsible for doing something with that lead are notified immediately. Because let's say, for example, yours is probably your website, right? I know the power of your guys' website, and like with the guy who's behind that, obviously, and all the marketing efforts that goes into it. And so let's just use that use case, right? So let's say you've got your website, but we didn't have a bunch of automation hooked up. That's totally okay. We all have to really start at the spot that we're at. So I would say first things first is make sure that we've actually got a good notification process in place. Because think about this. Let's say it's a couple people on the team, and those leads are always coming into the business owner's inbox, only the business owner's inbox. Well, let's say that business owner, and I've my brother is this way actually. And so, he runs an excavation company, and he's in the excavator. Well, imagine, let's say somebody fills out a lead form on his website, and he's, running an excavator, or he might be in the trench with the guys, helping him glue up a pipe or something like that. In all reality, we need these notifications to go to people who can actually do something very quickly with it. Because to your point earlier, let's say somebody opts in on a landing page and then they don't get a response and they need something quick, right? It could be, in his case, it could be a broken pipe that's flooding their yard. That thing needs to be taken care of like right now. And so, okay, well, they're going to move on to the next person. So, I would call that like simple action item number one. Action item number two is it comes down to the phones. I would put a process in place that allows your phone number to not get missed in the event that you're in the field, right? So a lot of times what that's going to be is implementing some sort of a small tech tool that's going to allow that when that phone is called, it's going to go to multiple people rather than just one. If we have one person that is going to, that's a single point of failure. Back to my use case, if that guy's in the trench, if the owner, he might be on the phone with somebody else. Well, we just missed an opportunity, right? And so I would say making certain that our phone system allows us to communicate with people and get the actual leads to come in and not miss them more often than not. We know there's going to be times when we're going to miss a call, right? That's just the nature of the beast. Those are the first two that just very quickly came to mind. Man, I would say number three. Without getting like too crazy advanced and technical. uh hmm.
I'm a tee you up right here.
And yeah, I'm gonna give you four then. So we're gonna go with four here. So yes, to your point, reviews, collecting reviews. This doesn't have to be some fancy automated way, although, the systems that we put together do it in an automated approach. I think so many people miss the ball on when they're done with the job. They need to walk up to the homeowner and talk to him, say, hey, man, Mrs. Jones or Mr. Smith or whatever the person's name is. What do you think? Let's go take a look at this. Awesome. Guys, I really appreciate the time. thanks for the last check, that kind of thing. By the way, can you give me, like, right now, like, scan this QR code, or, you know, go to this link, whatever it is, and can you give me a review, right? Like that, it's going to feel uncomfortable, but over time it will get better, right? Like that's just the nature of the beast. And does that require any automation? Does it require any systems? Not any at all, right? It just simply, you need to know your Google My Business link and or put it on a QR code, right? It's super simple to put it on a QR code and go from there. Reach out, obviously, if you had any questions on that, I can give you some resources. But I think a lot of people think when they put automation in place that that's going to completely remove their need to communicate and ask for these reviews and all that kind of stuff. But automation is a supplementation for human interaction. It is not a replacement of human interaction. It is a supplementation for human interaction. Yep.
Oh,
yeah. Think about this. So, like, let's say we go back to that review process. We don't necessarily want to rely exclusively on on an automated system to get reviews. The guys in the field, they need to be asking for reviews. The salesperson, when they're closed with the job, or this project manager closed with the job, that should be part of their process. Automation will simply help in the event that Mrs. Jones is like, oh, my phone is dead, blah, 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 right? Okay, well, I'm not going to wait for you to go charge your phone. And I'm also not going to let you sign into my Google or your Google on my phone. Like, that's just kind of unnatural. So from there, that's where the automation comes into play. When the job's marked complete in the back end, we send them a review request and then they get it there. So essentially, it's a way to pick up that extra one that we missed. Now, that fourth point, which was my third point I was thinking of, is some sort of scheduling, calendar tracking in place. We could get all kinds of, like, don't get me wrong, you've got it in place with the automated calendar scheduling, but you don't have to go that fancy right out the gate. Google Calendar is free. Put your dang appointments on your Google Calendar. If that's what the business is going to support right now, is something that is not costing you any money, Google Calendar is free. Put your appointments on your calendar. If you have multiple people that need to be at that appointment or that job, if you will, put them on that invite for the Google Calendar. Make it as long as it needs to be, as short as it needs to be, and then put the critical information on there and go from there. I see a lot of people dropping the ball on any kind of appointment scheduling, and I live and die by my calendar. So that being said, that's why I was thinking, like, my point number 3, which I'll make that point number 4, is to really make sure you have that calendar dialed in. Because in all reality, the more you live and die by that calendar, the more consistency you're going to create in your process, and therefore less stress is going to happen. I've seen it time and time again. I used to let my calendar just run me, and like it was just a conglomerated mess of colors. Now, I don't take a lot of calls, and that's by design. It's also because I do a lot of good time blocking and everything, and I know where my calls need to be in the process and all that kind of stuff. So I would say implementing some sort of schedule tracking system. It does not have to be some fancy calendar blocking, automated system. If you want to go down that route, of course, I have some things I can show anybody and everybody, from the simple to the very complex, that will help support, all the different kinds of business models. But Google Calendar is nice and free, and it works really well.
wow, man, that's so just to sum it up right here, this is a lot of value. So the number 1 is make sure that somebody is responding to those leads less than 1 minute, or the notification go to somebody that can able to answer the phone, or answer the request, or answer any inquiry that come into your business. My crazy idea is less than 30 seconds, but I think within 2 to 3 minutes is a good idea, right? Number 2 is the lead intake. Lead intake, having some sort of can you repeat that point again?
Yeah. So essentially, it goes hand in hand with point number one, but point number one is like form related coming off the website or, something in a digital format. The second part is people still want phone calls to be a thing in their life, right? And so if you got your phone out there on a Google business page or, on the side of your truck or wherever, and somebody calls that phone, and let's say it's your cell phone and you're down in a hole, you're, pouring some concrete or whatever, because a lot of small business owners, they haven't really relinquished their time 100% yet. And so if they're the single point of failure, well, that person who's a lead is probably moving on to the next person. So having a tool in place, which does require a little bit more than just your very basic of a phone, having a tool in place that when somebody calls a lead, that they are able to get directed to somebody. Doesn't matter if it's, like they're going to start with the clerk or an admin, if possible, if you got that skill, if you got that person in place. And then if that person doesn't pick up, hey, keep that phone ringing until somebody else picks up, kind of thing. Like that's the goal of this. You can go fancier with that. And when it hits like the voicemail, have the system send them a text back. Hey, I missed your call. What can I help you with? Kind of generate an immediate response kind of thing.
Okay. So make sure somebody pretty much man the phone at all time.
Yep.
Okay. And number 3 is review, have a review process in place. And number 4 is make sure you have some sort of scheduling to keep you on track. I think these, if people can get these done before they even, thinking about, because these are easy things to implement without having to pay for a custom CRM per se. These are the things that I call philosophy that can be implemented right away into your business. And some of these things will, can change the business trajectory, huge swing it on a huge on the upscale, on the upswing, right? So, hey man, thank you so much for coming on and providing your knowledge. I know you're busy man with a busy plan. So, any last parting words you want to say?
Man, no, I don't. I think that was good. I think we shared a lot of value, a lot of things that are actionable, and the thing is, I guess the thing I want to leave folks with is it doesn't have to be complicated. Get something in place that just helps right now. And then to that point, let it make you more money. And then, when you're like, oh, cool, now I've got some breathing room, I've got money coming in. Then from there, go find somebody, come talk to me if you want. Go find another person in the space that I'm in and then chit chat about what else is out there. Because there's a lot of solutions that are possible. But in all reality, I think everybody thinks they need to go buy the F450 Platinum right out the gate. Most folks do not need the F450 Platinum. They just don't. They might want to drive it around because it looks cool, it's fancy and everything, but in all reality, it rides like shit because it's rough and it's not, it's not designed for the average person. And so just getting something in place that's small, easy, and it's manageable, then stepping up into something that's more advanced and more capable is going to be the route to go.
Wow, man, that's that is actually a very sage advice right there. Make sure you make money first before you go out and spend all this add all this bell and whistle to your business. Because in to your point, like most people, they don't need automation yet. Most people, they don't need reputation management. Most people, they don't need fancy phone system. Yes. To your point, let's run back to the 4 point that number one, you just need a lead handling company, a lead handler. That's usually can be your admin. Number two, you can stage your phone call out to the admin yourself or have a answering service that can charge by the minute. So those are 2 cheap solutions. Number 3, reviews, ask on the spot. Number 4, scheduling, Google Calendar or maybe even Calendly, to start out with. So really all those less than $100 a month that could probably make you tens of thousands of dollars extra a month. So just to play it back to your, you got to make money first before you go spend it on some dumb shit. Not some dumb shit, but some extra shit that you don't need yet. Right? Like I don't even need all the CRM right now. And my business is $5 million. So all right, man. Hey, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your knowledge. I'm sure we'll talk offline soon.
Cool, man. Appreciate you having me.
All right. Bye.
You know I'm a hustler, hustler. You know I'm a hustler, hustler.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you find this episode helpful or if it changed your life in a positive way in any manner, please share with another friend, tell another friend about this podcast, or even contact me if you're a construction business owner that have a great story to tell. Please do contact me. Again, thank you. Until next time.
I'm working on my foreign exchanges.